Here we are at the next race recap. I know we missed out on the last one, but Laura, you go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Will. It was a very exciting time out in Montreal, Canada, as drivers raced their way in hopes to finishing the race before the oncoming rain arrives to mix up the grid. Another top 10 start for both Alpines as we see improvement from them and several other teams. And what's a race in Canada without some of the drivers coming in contact with the Wall of Champions? We had George Russell come in contact with the wall, then Johnson followed suit later on in the race. There were numerous exciting moments throughout the race before the onset of wet weather. Lockups appeared sporadically as the overcast skies loomed, poised to drench the drivers with rain, but the hopes were still, like you said, was to finish before drivers would have to change to wet weather tyres, which could have hindered teams' race strategies.
Not long after some close racing from this year's rookie, we had a spin from Aston Martin's Lance Stroll. Rain had started falling, causing the driver to lose control through the start of Sector 1 and bring out the red flag. And with that standing restart, drivers had a short sprint on intermediate tyres to decide the final order of the weekend in Montreal.
That concludes the race recap from Montreal, Canada. Now we shift our focus to the upcoming race in Barcelona, Spain, where rain is once again anticipated. I'm Laura Winter with Will Buxton, and we will see you again in Austria.
It's a Catalonian qualifying for you today. Welcome along to Spain, to Barcelona, and wherever you are in the world, do you feel the need? The need for speed?
I can never get over the puns that these guys do for this game. As we're coming around the final corner here in Barcelona, pretty overcast weather. The first time we get 1:15.098 provisional pole. That's good enough to get us into Q2. We drop down outside of the top 10. Coming around the final corner, once again, we could have put a little bit more power down. Sun is shining this time around. Another provisional pole. That's about 0.3 of a difference. But once again, we dropped down. We stayed within the top 10 this time. And for our final run, we're going to be running again. That's going to be good enough for the front row.
Goodbye for now then, but really we're just getting started. Make sure to join us again for Lights Out tomorrow. Welcome along, everyone, to sunny Spain, specifically to the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. So many great moments in Formula One history have been written at this very track over the years, including Michael Schumacher's first win for Ferrari back in '96. That win was in the rain. We might have better weather here today, but we're just as overjoyed to be at the Spanish Grand Prix. It's an updated track at Catalunya, and we welcome the removal of the chicane in the final sector, shortening lap times and reducing the total running to 2.9 miles and 14 turns. This was actually the original setup for the track, but it hasn't been used since 2007. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And Johnson completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Fernando Alonso, Leclerc, Sainz, Russell, Oscar Piastri, Hamilton, Norris, Perez, Ricciardo, Stroll, Gasly, Hülkenberg, Bottas, Magnussen, Tsunoda, Sargent, Joe, and Alex Albon picks up the last spot on the grid. Now it's almost time for Lights Out, so let's go down to the track. And joining me in the commentary box today with the best view on what is about to unfold and some strong views on the action we're about to see, Naomi Schiff. Now, you're the racing driver in this partnership, so tell us about this racing driver. Put us in their shoes. How are they going to be feeling?
It's a very special time for the drivers. It's almost like everything around you slows down and you become hyper aware. So your nerves slightly go up, your adrenaline's going up. It's the perfect time to start focusing on your visualizations and preparing for the race. So you want to avoid distractions and really stay cool, calm, and focused.
That was a great qualifying. It's your best start yet. It's already starting to rain, so get as far ahead of the pack as you can for your pit stop onto inters, and we should still be able to hold on to at least a points finish.
Here we go then, the formation lap gets underway and the excitement here is building as we near ever closer to the start of the race. Which team will come out on top? Who's got their strategies right for today's race? Well, we'll soon find out. So as all the cars reform the grids, the drivers will be hoping to get a strong start. They'll want to earn some valuable points from today's race, with final communications being done with their race engineers, ensuring the planned strategies are all in place.
Alright, we are pulled into our grid slot. You can see it is already racing here. Everybody is on slick tires, and not really feeling it for the guys who are running soft tires. Our 5 red lights are coming on, and we're off to a really good start. We have a little bit better traction than I thought we would against Verstappen. They're on the soft tires. They're on the outside. We're going to be pushing him very far to the outside, and we're going to be braking late to overtake him into turn 1. And our best start so far this season, so we're feeling really confident coming into this, but knowing that we have rain on the way, we have to be very careful about how we play this. Verstappen still about 3/10 back behind us, Leclerc 5/10, half a second or so behind Verstappen. Russell and Norris going back and forth for positions there, a few turns back, and you can't really see it because of the overcast weather, but the rain is falling. It started falling in Sector 1 first, as we're coming through towards the end of Sector 2. Hitting that corner really well, very confident in Spain this time around compared to last year. Last year, we didn't win till Season 2 in Spain against Max Verstappen. We had a contact there coming up the hill, but he spun out on his own, which gave us the win 3 laps to go before the end of the race. But we're holding on to the lead here. Verstappen's going to be coming in behind. He's going to have tow. DRS is going to be active here on lap 2. But Verstappen's going to have enough momentum to not even have to use much battery. He's going to be making an easy move on the inside, so we're going to go ahead and give him that space. But we are still going to kind of challenge him. We didn't get the power down enough coming out of turn 2. So that's Verstappen into the lead here as we come through lap 2, and everybody's starting to slip and slide around as the rain is coming down more. You can see a little bit of rain coming down here towards the end of Sector 1, and it's basically a fight to get as far ahead as we can before the rain really affects us. You see the back end's coming out. You see a little bit of rain on the screen as it's starting to coat the car. A few drops here and there. And we're already 8/10 back behind Verstappen. Verstappen really pushing his car on those soft tires to get ahead of us as we're coming up to the end of lap 2 now. You guys haven't noticed, we haven't made any cuts here because it's going to be an early pit stop, so we might as well show the fight all the way through to the first pit stops as we work our way up the hill. And Verstappen already out of that 1 second mark for us to be able to make that move. You saw the back end slide out. We had to let off, so we're already 1.2 seconds back behind him. Leclerc is going to look to try to make a move here on the start of lap 3 as nobody has come into the pits yet. There is the move on the inside for Leclerc. He's going to brake like they normally do, and we're going to brake late. But Sector 1 here, turns 2 and 3 have the worst of the rain. You see we slip out again as we're already 2 seconds back behind Verstappen. So that gap that we wanted, Verstappen has. So we're struggling to keep this car going under pressure. Leclerc's close behind. Alonso, Sainz, Piastri, and Lando Norris. The top 7 are trying to break away. Hamilton, Russell, they're back in P8 and P9. And I have a feeling that we're going to start seeing some pit stops here by the end of this lap. You can see Verstappen already 3.4 seconds ahead coming through the start of Sector 3. and just how much the rain is coming down here in Sector 3 as well. It's just, I did not expect this much rain this early in the race. I expected it at least 10 or so laps, as you can see how we're struggling, and we're basically gonna try and push it one more lap, see what we can do. The team wants us to come in on lap 5. So, well, the original idea was to just do a one stop, but Leclerc and Alonso trying to make a move here on the inside. They're going to be fighting each other. They both cover each other off, and they're still going to be fighting. 4.5 seconds is the gap now between myself and Verstappen. That's 7/10 is the gap between myself and Leclerc. You can see all the pit changes here as we move on towards the end of lap 4, which is actually when we check the weather and decide to come in for our first set of intermediate tires. So we actually come in and we almost miss the entry on our braking point. I really had to be careful about hitting my brakes on this track and then letting off before I hit the turn. There is Verstappen on his set of intermediates, as this front half pack looks to make some good pit stops in order to get ahead of the the pack that already went in last lap. We see Verstappen ahead, Perez behind, Hamilton, Ricciardo, Hülkenberg, Sainz. We're going to be coming out behind Sainz as he's fighting the Haas. And we're basically going to be following them for a few laps and fighting to get some temperature into these intermediate tires. You can see how we're feathering the steering wheel and being easy on the throttle. The start of lap 8 now, actually, is when we're finally able to make a move on Daniel Ricciardo for P6. He's going to be moving to cover, and that forces us to stay on the outside line for turn 1. Very good cover and defensive move from Ricciardo there in the V-carb, as we still try and fight and hold on to see what we can do about gaining some positions. Currently we are in the points, but farther back, I believe on lap 8 or 9, they're on board with Logan Sargent, who is fighting with, I believe, Pierre Gasly. Yes. I thought it was going to be another V-carb as he's coming through the end of Sector 1, start of Sector 2. And on the left-hander, he just puts too much power down. So that's going to be a first spin and safety car of today's race.
It's not often that we see a safety car due to rainy conditions when looking at the current grid. However, this is due to the FIA holding a meeting with the drivers and adjusting the severity of the call on red flags. What are your thoughts on that, Martin? And how do you think the drivers are feeling about it throughout this race so far?
I feel like the drivers are okay with it. They are the ones out there driving the car, and when they express those concerns to their teams enough, it becomes an issue that needs to be resolved. We've seen more red flags this season than we have in the last few years, and I'm sure drivers don't want to waste so much time getting in and out of the car. That extra time and effort it takes to take everything off for the duration of the red flag, then have to put everything back on, really puts a number on the driver's focus.
Since we're on the subject, let's go to Ted Kravitz. Enjoying the rain down at the pit exit there, Ted?
I can hear the laughter in your voice right now, Crofty. I guess the rain has been coming down since the start of the formation lap, which it actually came in from Sector 1, and in due time drivers will most likely have to make an additional stop for full wets. We haven't seen many mistakes here in the pit lane as of yet, but the weather will have to be factored into the remainder of the team's strategies. We're still in the first leg of this race, and with how the weather is, there is still so much that can happen.
We haven't seen that much wet weather racing yet this season. What are your thoughts on how this year's rookie can drive in the rain?
I believe they are doing great, as much as some of the other drivers who say that they don't like it. We did see a great display last time out in Canada of his driving, and I'm sure he can manage in this weather. And with how we are already almost halfway through the season, I feel like most, if not all teams, are looking at him as a possible driver for next year.
Well, Ted, thank you for the input, and we hope you stay dry with that poncho of yours out there. Lap 10 is coming to an end, and the safety car will be coming back in. We have a Red Bull 1-2 leading the way into the restart as the weather doesn't seem to be letting up. We have some drivers looking to work their way back up the grid from their starting positions, so let's get back to some racing.
All right, so here we are. The view that you would normally get at the beginning of the race, but it's a safety car restart. And we're coming back to control here around this final corner as we take a lot of curb. And we are hoping for a good restart here behind Daniel Ricciardo. He gets a good launch. Back end tries to come out on us as we're basically trying to stay in the tracks of the cars ahead of us. Leclerc is trying to stay as close as he can behind us. Everybody about 3/10 or so here in the rain. It all comes down to this first braking point here in turn 1. Not sure who that was in the background trying to make a move. It's Lance Stroll. Looks like fighting Tsunoda for position side by side back there. As you can see how much rain is coming down here on lap 12 as we're sitting comfortably in a position. And it's said before the race it was supposed to be progressively getting worse. So my idea was to swap over to another set of intermediates and try and avoid running the wet tires, because knowing in the past we haven't really ran good on the wet tires. Just hoping to manage the car as best as possible. As Ricciardo starts to break away from us as we made a mistake there on the left-hander. But we are trying to get as close as we can, and it's basically after this point, after the safety car, where we really get dialed in this wet weather. Really trying to keep concentrated on the braking points and making sure not to put too much gas down after letting off the brakes and turning. That way we don't spin the car out. You can see how we're still trying to adjust to this. Coming on the final corner here after the yellow flag restart on the lap 13. We're going to be chasing Ricciardo for a few laps here. Actually, well, for the whole lap, where it seems like it let up a little bit, and we're close enough to Ricciardo to be in his toe and make a move, dump some battery out. And this time around, he's not going to be able to defend. A little bit of contact there, a little bit of a nudge, a little friendly competitive nudge to our favorite driver on the grid as we move on to P6. So feeling really good about it, and it's going to continue like this for a while. So Hulkenberg, I remember in Australia, myself and Hulkenberg, we set up a there was a red flag in Australia, and we chose dry tires in the wet weather, and it quickly dried out, so we ended up getting a podium there in Australia. And look at where we're at. We're both in the top 6, fighting for P5 currently as we make that move. Lap 15 already of 33, so we're halfway through this race. And lap 18 now. You can see people starting to come into the pits. I believe that was Hamilton just ahead of us. Verstappen, Perez, Sainz, Hamilton's in the pits. That's going to be Sainz and Perez as well. So that's actually Verstappen in as well. So we're going to be taking the lead here on the start of lap 19. Claire is close behind. Russell is in third. And the Red Bulls are going to be making their way out of the pits. So we're currently running first place once again in this race here, as the helmet really looks good. There's no rain effect on it, but it still looks very appealing. We're looking at seeing at a possible helmet for the halfway point of the season, when the team is said to get a new cover sponsor for the team here in Alpine. That's lap 19. The end of lap 19, we're going to be coming into our pit stop for another set of intermediates. So 1.3 is the gap. Leclerc is going to be coming in behind us, and that's actually going to be a handful of people coming in behind us. I believe that's going to be the Mercedes of Russell, and then I believe that was Stroll. I don't know actually who was behind him. I have to look at the timing charts. Perez takes the lead. He's out on the track. Sainz ahead. Okay, that was myself, Leclerc, and Russell, I believe. I could be wrong. But we're in P4, lap 20, and we're looking to chase down Lewis Hamilton as we once again getting some temperature as best as we can into these tires. You see the back end coming out, and the rain has let up a little bit, But I believe lap 21, maybe 22, we're on board with Daniel Ricciardo, who is ahead of Nico Hulkenberg, I believe, on the full wet tires. A lot of people were electing to go full wets because they thought it was time to move on to those better, grippier tires here in the rain. But Daniel Ricciardo, coming through Sector 2, spins the car for yet again another safety car.
Just over 10 laps later, and we're onto our second safety car of the day here in Barcelona. I'm sure the drivers are having some fine times in the rain. What do you think, Martin?
Driving an entire race in the rain can be challenging, no matter if you're travelling at full speeds or not. Drivers have to deal with it as best as they can throughout the duration of the race. There is no room for mistakes while in rainy weather, as we've seen a few times now.
Hold on, Martin. Looks like we have a late pit entry. And it's going to be Alpine's rookie, Johnson, who is most likely going to be changing over to a set of full wets and going to be dropped down to last place for the restart.
Okay, off we go, back into the race. Your late turn-in meant we had a slower than planned pit stop, I'm afraid.
That late pit box exit is going to hurt the team's morale at this point because they know they're at the back of the pack anyways.
Well, there's nowhere to look but forward for Alpine, both drivers towards the back of the grid as we're nearing the race restart. Let's, once again, get back to racing.
All right, so a very unfortunate situation for us. The AI decided to pit us under the safety car. Where it shouldn't have done that, actually. I think it did that once in F122, where it's just one of those bugs that doesn't happen that often because we have it set at cinematic. We have the safety car set at cinematic, where we don't have control over the car at that time. So restarting here on lap 24, we're in the back of the pack, and like they were saying, we got nothing else to lose here. Except for moving up the grid. Gasly, our teammate, up in P15 behind Magnussen. And we're basically taking this time instead of wet tires. We have some pretty fresh tires because of the safety car, and we came in late. So we shouldn't have a problem moving our way up the grid. But on this first lap, you can see the issues that we are having on these wet tires. I said it earlier, we do not have fun on these wet tires. See the breaking point almost coming in contact with Lance Stroll. The two Aston Martins also not having a good race here, as we're still trying to find some room to make a move. You see that spray, very hard to see the car when they're going through the spray, and you can see Ricciardo back in P17 as well. So we were up there fighting for points in the top 5, top 6, but now we're all in the back of the pack. Sargent usually he's at where he usually is at, but yeah, so lap 24, nothing much to be concerned about or attempt anything too extreme. We just need to get these tires into the peak temperature and try to actually make some moves, as the front pack is already trying to break away. Verstappen back in P7, already a second clear of Hulkenberg, as we're gonna be end of lap 25. Once again, almost coming in contact with Lance Stroll. And just like we did with Daniel Ricciardo, we're gonna be looking to make a move here. Coming into sector 1, we feel a little bit more comfortable with our braking, especially on these wet tires. So we're gonna let that coast us alongside Fernando Alonso for P18. So a double overtake through turns 1 and 2, lap 26 of 33. And we're already up behind Ricciardo and Sargent, looking to make another move. You can see him in the mirror trying to make a move here, as we're still trying to keep control of the car as best as possible. Those quick reactions coming from us. I honestly, when I first started driving this game, when F1, Cody's F1 in general, I didn't like driving in the rain. I hated it, but it has definitely grown on me. Later on in this lap, we're gonna make a move on the inside, or the outside of Daniel Ricciardo, actually, coming into the next turn. And we're going to hold on to this inside lane, and we're going to try to push as much as we can but as we do that, we push Ricardo off the track, so no warning, no contact, and we lose a little bit of traction as a little bit of karma from that. So P17, lap 26 of 33, and we're looking to zone in on Logan Sargent, who is up ahead just under a second. And we finally catch up to him as we start the next lap here on lap 28. We're going to be moving him towards the inside. We tried that. Now we move to the inside, and we're going to make him move like Max Verstappen did us on the first turn. We're going to be moving up into P16, still trying to take this inside corner as best as possible. I can never get this racing line figured out. Back end, still trying to slip out as we lose ground to Valtteri Bottas there in P15. But as we're coming up to Sector 3, you see Perez and Leclerc dropping down the order, and it looks like it's going to be a red flag. Let's go see what's going to happen here. We let go of the steering as the red flag was called. So here is Perez coming up on Leclerc. Not too far ahead of us, as he's going to be coming around. And that's going to be Perez spinning out, third person. This time it's a red flag.
Oh, but this is a chance to take a breath. We've got another half of this race to go, and there's still a big opportunity there.
Alright, so it's been a very crazy race here in Spain. 2 safety cars and then a red flag. Of course, after we bumped the settings down, so that's why we're getting so many safety cars. But the weather was unexpected for this race, as it is always. But just like Canada last time around, it's going to be a few lap sprint, and it looks like we're going to be on intermediates because the track is still going to be wet. So let's hope it's not dry enough for slick tires. So let's see. Alright, so an even shorter sprint here as the 5 red lights are on, and we actually have a jump start, our first jump start of the season. Very unfortunate for us, which means that we're going to be getting a drive-through penalty for jumping the lights. And pretty much there goes our race, but we still have the rest of the race to go. Gasly's up in P13 now as he's fighting Joe. And just basically hoping to see where people end up for the championship, as we do manage to get past Sargent and Ricardo. And the weather has calmed down a bit. We're back down to the intermediate tires. Rain is still going to last till the end of the race. But the racing line is dried up enough to where it will heat up the tires just enough to where we can see what kind of moves we can make. But that's not going to matter, because at the end of this lap, we're going to be coming into the pits, performing our drive-through penalty, and that's going to be basically the end of the race, because we're going to finish, and everybody else is going to be long done before we even get to the racing the start-finish line. So, as we're looking at it, Sainz up in P1, hometown hero, looking to win his... I don't know if he's won in Spain before, I could be wrong. You have to look and do some research. Hamilton P2, Russell P3, Piastri, Verstappen back in P5, Norris Perez back in P7, Leclerc, Hulkenberg, and Albon to cover the top 10. Williams with Albon would be nice, even though Sargent hasn't scored any points, and then both Kick Salvers haven't scored any points as well. There's a 4th driver that hasn't scored. I'm not sure who it was, but it was one of the past drivers, I believe. We're going to be on board with Verstappen here on the next lap, as we're about 15 seconds back behind Ricardo. And Sector 3, at the same area that Perez came through. It's going to be an engine failure for Max Verstappen. Yet again, you guys remember he had those engine failures during both sprints in Miami and China, so that's going to hurt his championship lead. As you can see, it's a yellow flag, lap 31 and 33, so no more safety cars, no more virtual safety cars. Let's see, we pass in there. And that's one position, not really doing anything for us, but it is one position to improve our final position. The position that we've ended in the worst so far is P17. And I believe that was Imola or something like that. One of the races that we didn't DNF. But Lance Stroll next, lap 32, spins same place that I believe it was Daniel Ricciardo spun. So he's going to be out of this race pretty much. He's going to be trying to get back on the track. But as we're passing him, he's going to get disqualified because he's beached himself. His car is hanging over the gravel pit and the grass. He's going to get disqualified. It's going to be pushing us up in a P18 as we just aim to finish the rest of this race for our time here in Spain. So luckily, it's going to be Carlos Sainz for the win. Hometown hero. Going to be very happy about that.
Flag. And here's our race winner today. What a smooth operation it was for Carlos Sainz.
And you can just see how much this means to the fans as well. The energy that they were giving the driver all day today. A race win at home feels like 10 race wins elsewhere.
And here we are, a team that is no stranger to the podium, taking their place on top once again. A sublime race today, and a stunning win for Ferrari. After an event like that, who knows what the sport has in store for us next time out? Be sure to join us once again as we continue to bring you all the excitement of Formula One.